This video will show you how to replace the left front CV axle assembly on a Mazda 3. This will be located behind your front wheel. A quick note about doing this job: once it's complete, you're going to want to get yourself a 4-wheel alignment. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing we have to do is safely raise and support the front of the vehicle so the wheel's off the ground. Once you've completed that, you're going to remove all 5 of your 21mm lug nuts and the wheel. Now that we removed the wheel, let's have a close look at this area right here along the back side of the brakes. We can see where our outer tie rod end connects to our steering knuckle. Now to dislodge this, you're going to find that you have a locking cotter pin. These come in all different shapes and sizes. Just go ahead and use some pliers or cutters, remove it. Once you have that out of there, just a quick inspection. If it looks like it's reusable, set it aside. Otherwise, dispose of it and replace it. We'll use a 17mm to loosen our mounting nut. Once it's off, just a quick inspection, and then we're going to start it back on a couple threads. We'll use some penetrant in this area. Continuing on, we need to separate the tie rod end from the knuckle. We don't want to cause any damage. I'm just going to carefully use my hammer, cause some vibration. The tie rod should drop down. The nut will prevent it from falling and potentially hurting anybody. Now we should be able to pivot this around. We're focusing on the axle nut next. For this, I'm using a 32mm socket. Once we've removed the nut, we'll use a hammer and punch directly in the center to break the axle free from the wheel bearing hub assembly. Now, once you have movement from here, we'll continue on. Now that we have that separated, we're making our way to where the flex hose connects to our front strut, right up in here. There's a metal clip. You can see the ear. Go ahead and take hold of that with some pliers. We'll pull it out of place and then remove the flex hose from the bracket as well. There we are, just an inspection of that. Slide the flex hose out of there. Close inspection of the flex hose. You want to make sure it's not cracked or damaged in any way. If it is, you just want to go ahead and replace it. Ours looks fine. Let's move just up the strut from there. This is where we can see our ABS wire mounting point. There's one of them here and there's one on the other side. For this one, typically you can give it a little wiggle and it should want to slide out of place. There we are. We'll just give that a quick inspection. Now we can make our way along the rearward side of the strut next. Now looking down along here, we can see the next mounting point. I'm just going to carefully pry this out of place here. I'm using a trim tool. Should be able to pull that right out of the front strut. There we are. Now we have plenty of slack from the ABS wheel speed sensor wire. We don't have to worry about causing damage at this point. We'll focus on the next 2 bolts right along here. There's 17mm headed mounting bolts coming through from the rear towards the front. And on the forward side here, we have 2 19mm mounting nuts, one on each bolt. Got my 17mm wrench. Now I'm just going to leave that bolt in place while I continue on to the next. Now we'll just lightly tap these out of place. Now as we start pulling this one out of here, make sure you're holding onto the steering knuckle and brakes. As we pull that out, we want to start pulling the knuckle away, but keep in mind the axle needs to be pulling out and away from the bearing at the same time. I'm just going to reach along from the other side there, hold onto that axle, and we can start sliding it through. We'll pull this down. Plenty of slack on that ABS wire. Super important. Now the next thing we need to do is hang this aside so it's putting no pressure on anything, especially the ABS wire or the brake flex hose. We can continue on with the removal of the front axle. Now we're going to focus on removing the axle itself from the transmission deep inside this area. If you had an axle removal tool that fit in, you could use that from here. Otherwise, if you're planning on using a pry bar, I'm going to show you how to do that by safely getting underneath the vehicle, and we're going to remove our lower splash shield. Now under this area, we can see a large plastic shield. We don't need to fully remove this, but we do want to pay attention along the backside because we're going to start dislodging it and making our way up and above. There's going to be several plastic push clips for us to remove. To remove any of these push clips, I'm just using my trim tool. You can also use a flat blade screwdriver. Start removing the center to unlock it, and the outer portion should remove as well. This one's hidden behind here. Prior to removing the axle, just keep in mind there is fluid inside of the transmission. We'll have our collection receptacle under this area. Now we should be able to pull this down and flex it enough that we can use a pry bar. I'm going directly up and along the side of the transmission towards where the axle and transmission meet. I want to try to pry in between these areas and gently separate the axle, pulling it out and away from the vehicle. Okay, it looks like it popped free. We can go ahead and take hold of this and we'll pull it out of place. There it is, friend. Now that we have the axle out of there, let's clean and inspect the axle seal. For this, I'm just using a clean rag. I'm not using any type of detergent. We don't want any miscellaneous fluid or debris making its way inside of our transmission. Just make sure that seal's soft and pliable, not torn, worn, or damaged in any way. If it is, you'd want to go ahead and replace it, and now's a perfect time to do so. This one's fine, so let's continue on. Now let's prepare to install our brand new front axle. We'll carefully take the inboard side and slide that towards the transmission. Now that I have this lined up, we're going to pay attention at the very far end of the axle. Temporarily install your axle nut, and then we're going to use a rubber mallet to tap this straight inward towards the transmission. This will prevent the threads from getting damaged as we continue on. Now I've got my rubber mallet. Let's give this a couple taps. There we are. Now I heard an audible click, so I'm going to make my way all the way to the inboard side of the axle, right where it connects to the transmission, and attempt to pull it outward. Double check to make sure it's completely locked in. It should not slide out of place. Assuming it's good, go ahead and remove that axle nut. Now we can start removing that bungee cord holding this in place. Continuing on, we're going to have to take hold of the axle. We'll slide it into the rear of the wheel bearing. Once it starts sliding through, we're going to take this portion of the knuckle and slide it into this area of the front strut. Then we'll continue on with our two mounting bolts from the rear towards the front. We have our axle here. Slide that in. I'm using blue thread locker on each one of my two mounting bolts. Watch out for that ABS wheel speed sensor wire as we continue on. On the forward side, we have our 19mm mounting nuts. Just go ahead and start those on. Once you have them started on, we're going to snug them. The torque for each of these is 117 foot-pounds. Now I'm going to hold the bolt head with my wrench here. Got our torque wrench ready. After you've torqued both of these, let's continue on to our front brake flex hose next. That flex hose is going to go directly through this bracket right here. We'll make our way through with the flexible portion of the hose. Continue on with the center bracket portion. You may need to twist this as necessary to get it to fit in. Once you feel as though it's in properly, we'll continue on with our locking clip. Now as for this locking clip, we want to make sure we have the grabbable tab facing inboard. Just go ahead and line that up with the groove on the flex hose and tap it into position. Take hold of the flex hose, confirm it's properly secured to the front strut. Let's move just above that next for the ABS wheel speed sensor wire. We're just going to take this bracket and slide it into position. Once you've heard an audible click, just make sure it's secure, and now we'll make our way on the rearward side, continuing on with the ABS wire. Along this side, we're going to secure the ABS wire to that front strut. Just go ahead and press it into position. Make sure it's secure. We're going to attach the tie rod end to the steering knuckle next. We'll just turn this as necessary. We should be able to slide the tie rod stud up and through. Continue on with your mounting nut. Now we'll tighten that mounting nut and torque it to 43 foot-pounds. Now that I have this torqued, I'm going to make an important note. We've replaced the outer tie rod end. The new tie rod end does not have a port for the cotter pin. If you're reusing your original outer tie rod end, you want to make sure you reinstall a brand new cotter pin. Now, of course, the next thing we need to do is clean our mess. So I'm down underneath the vehicle here and I'm reaching for where the axle connects to the transmission. We did lose some transmission fluid. We need to make sure we collect and recycle all that. We'll just clean everything up as necessary here. Of course, you do want to clean that shield if you got anything on that as well. Now we're bringing the shield up in a position. We have our 4 push clips. Just go ahead and line them up. Once you have the outer portion pressed in, you can lock it in by pressing in the center as well. All the way down at the far side here. Press that in as well. Double check, make sure it's secure so it's not moving around on you while you're driving down the road. Let's make our way safely out from under the vehicle. Now we're going to install our axle nut right along the center shaft here. For this, to help prevent this from spinning on us while we continue on, you could use a pry bar angling down towards the ground. Or you could just have a second person inside of the vehicle holding on the brake pedal. Whatever's easiest for you. Now we can install our brand new axle nut. Go ahead and start that on there. Now that we have that on there, we're going to make sure that we do not tighten this with an impact tool. That can cause damage to your wheel bearing. You can only tighten this with a hand tool. Once you have it snug, we'll torque it down. Now that I have that snug, I'm going to torque this to 180 foot-pounds. Now one last quick inspection in this area and we can reinstall our wheel. Once you have your wheel in place, start on all 5 of your 21mm lug nuts. Bottom them out, we'll get the wheel safely on the ground and torque each of them to 100 foot-pounds. Now we have the wheel safely on the ground, we're going to be torquing these in a crisscross manner to that 100 foot-pounds. Torqued. Now the next thing we have to do is gain access to our transmission dipstick. To remove the front lower engine splash shield, you're going to find that you have several pieces of hardware to remove. We're going to start with a 10mm. There's 2 10mm bolts on the driver's side and 2 on the passenger side. We'll skip the 2 center. Now we do have some push clips. There's 1 in the center here, but we're going to pause on push clips. Let's continue on with our mounting bolts. As we move towards the front, we're switching to an 8mm for all of our mounting bolts, making their way across. Start on one side, make our way over. We have a push clip. We're leaving those in place. Now we can continue on with our 3 push clips, going with the forward one first, and we'll end with the center. For each of my push clips, you want to carefully start removing the center to unlock it, and then you can remove the outer portion as well. I'm just using a trim tool for this. Now once you have all the hardware out of there, we should be able to take hold of this, we'll give it a wiggle, and pull it down and out of place. There it is, friend. So now as we make our way up in this area, I can see where my transmission dipstick is, right along the front of the transmission. Now this dipstick is held in place with a 10mm headed mounting bolt, so we're going to remove the bolt. We'll make sure there's no debris that might fall inside of the transmission and remove that dipstick. Now that I have that bolt out of there, I'm just going to give this a quick wipe. We're ensuring that there's no miscellaneous debris that might fall inside of the transmission. It's extremely important. We'll reach up in this area. I'm going to take hold of that dipstick. We should be able to give it a little twist here. We're attempting to break it free. Typically there is a small O-ring that's going to seal this. We'll just move it around. We should be able to work this out of position. Now we can remove that. Down in this area, I'm going to give it a quick wipe. Now that I've wiped it down, let's pay attention in this area. Now down at the very far corner, you can tell which temperature you're supposed to inspect this at. Of course, we will have the vehicle running at normal operating temperature when we do our final check. For now, what we want to do is make sure that our level is up inside this area, right along here. We can see 2 small hatched areas, and then right in the center, there's this rectangular bump that protrudes out a little bit. That's where the fluid needs to be at when the engine is running in park at normal operating temperature. If it's a little low, you're going to want to add a little bit, and when you add, make sure you're using the proper manufacturer specified fluid. So now that I showed you where the transmission fluid should be at, you'd want to go ahead and reinstall that dipstick. Continue on with the manufacturer specified procedure for the transmission fill sequence. You're going to want to have it on a flat level surface at normal running temperature. With the vehicle running, you're going to check that fluid level. Top it off as necessary with the manufacturer specified fluid. You can tell that I've topped it off. I'm right up into my hatched area where I need to be. If you're low, add some. If for some reason you added too much, you need to go ahead and remove a little bit. This looks fine, so let's continue on with our installation. When you go to install the dipstick, you may find you have to gently twist it one direction or the other while you slide it into place. That sealing O-ring may be binding. You can lubricate it with a little bit of your transmission fluid as necessary. Now I've got my mounting bolts. I clean the threads. Put on a little bit of anti-seize on that threaded portion there. That's just going to help me remove this easier in the future as necessary. We've got that started in. Let's go ahead and snug it up. Once it's bottomed out, we'll just take it a tiny bit further. We don't want to break it. You just want to make sure it's secure. Okay, right there is bottomed out. Just a tiny bit further. Let's take hold of that dipstick, confirm that it is secured. It should not move around once it's tight. Once you do have that properly secured, clean any mess in this area. Reinstall your shield as necessary. To get this in place, we're starting along the back side. Looking along the rear of the splash shield, you can see that we have these circular ports carved out. Those slide up and over this area of the rearward splash shield. You should be able to line it up and slide it right into position fairly simply here. Now we just want to pay attention along this area as well. Those should be seated properly. Now let's focus on the front center. Along the center of the splash shield, we have this small tab that we should be able to press up and above our bumper cover and continue on with our 3 push clips. We've got 1 push clip on the forward corner here. Make our way over here for the same thing. Got our push clip. Line that up with the upper hole. We'll make our way towards the rear center. And now it's time for our mounting bolts. For the rear hardware, we're using our 10mm headed mounting bolts. We'll start them all in and then we can snug them. Snug them up. Skip it, onto this one. Next, we're going to move along the front for our 8mm headed mounting bolts. Now, just as before, we're going to start in all the mounting hardware and then we'll snug it up. Double check to make sure that's properly secured in place. Okay, friend, we finished the installation of our driver's side front axle. Now the next thing you want to do is just double check for leaks. You're going to pump up that brake pedal till it's nice and firm. Take your vehicle for a road test to your local alignment shop. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.